and I appreciate. This is maybe my third time coming to the Des Moines meditation group. I'd like to first, just so you know, you don't have to become Buddhist to meditate. You know, I happen to have made that a commitment and a central part of my life, but there's absolutely no reason, unless you want to be Buddhist, to be here. All right. So I like to start out with a little chant. I set up an altar here. We can see an image of the Buddha. I was thinking to light some incense, but I want to check first. We don't have to do that. Is there anybody here that has any allergies to incense? If so, please just raise your hand, and I'll happy not to do that. Okay. All right. So do that. And I'd like to recite for you. If you want, you're welcome to stand or sit for this. It's up to you. Just to give you a little bit of introduction, brief introduction. Here in Des Moines, I teach at the Broadlands Medical Center. I teach trauma-sensitive yoga. That's one of the things that I do down here, in addition to teaching at the Pure Land of Iowa meditation retreats. So that informs the way that I teach as well. So big aspect of who I talk to are folks with trauma. And the other thing is, Pure Land of Iowa, which is a Buddhist temple here. So one is secular oriented, and the other is more spiritual oriented. And then also teach at the Ankeny at the yoga. Balance Yoga Lounge. So just a little, and I'll share more in just a minute. But I'd like to start out with a chant from the early teachings of the Buddha. It's basically taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I just love to chant, and I don't get enough. I used to do it way more often. I don't do it as much as I like to, but I want to give that offering to you all. And traditionally, we offer incense to the Buddha. I was going to say, we usually have flowers on the altar, but we've got this huge flower here. We've got wonderful flowers outside, even a little baby bunny rabbit out there is an offering to the Buddha. And the big sky is an offering to the Buddha. This incense is an offering to the Buddha. And these words of refuge. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. So some of you, I understand, have never done meditation before, or are new, or simply new to here. Anybody totally new to meditation? All right, so everybody here has some experience meditating. Great. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start out. I'll share a little bit more about myself in just a moment, but I want to start out with a kind of a guided meditation. According to the teachings of the Buddha, the entire universe is made up of just 18 elements. 18 elements. And that's it. What are the 18? You might want to know, like, what are the 18? If this is the entire, the universe is vast, right? The universe is huge, and it's something for the Buddha to say there's just 18 elements that make up the entire universe. What is it? What are those 18? Well, in a nutshell, those 18 are you. You are those 18. You are those 18 elements. We are each a microcosm of the entire universe. Each of us has within us a whole universe. And that might be hard for our minds to get around. But that's the heart of the Buddha's teaching. Just take that in for a second. That you encompass, you are You have within you everything, everything. Listen to this verse from the Avatamsaka Sutra. One body is infinite. You could spend the rest of the night, I can just be silent from here on. One body is infinite. If you really take that in, what does that mean? That you are infinite. This body is infinite. And the infinite two are one. There's a sense of multiplicity and unity, diversity and unity. We are one, but there's also that difference. Understanding all the worlds, Buddha manifests forms everywhere. Everywhere means even right here, right now, even in you. What is Buddha? We don't know what Buddha is. So what are these 18 elements? What are these 18 elements? The six senses. The first six elements are the six senses. Eyes, ears, mouth, nose, tongue. They're all like concentrated right up here. Then there's the body and mind. Those are the first six elements. And without these six, the universe doesn't exist. The next six are the objects of those six senses. The objects of what is it that we see? These, my eye sees this bell. Now this is the object. And the last six are the consciousness, the awareness that rises up when my sense meets the sense object. So when the object and the sense meet, there's consciousness that's born. That's the last six. Eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, when you taste something, and when there's a taste. And then there's awareness that's born from the contact that food or whatever it is that you put into your mouth, when that contact comes in touch with the tongue, there's taste that's born, and there's awareness of taste. And then there's body consciousness, and mind consciousness. And the Buddha says in one model of the universe, that's what the universe is made of, these 18. If those 18 are not there, neither is the universe. In other words, the way that we perceive the world is how the world is. Or maybe the way that we perceive the world creates the world. The way that we hear, the way that we see, the way that we smell, the way that we think shapes the world that we live in. That's the universe that we live in. So, in other words, the universe is not separate from us. Yourself, you create the universe. I create the universe. In fact, we say that the whole universe is born when one individual is born. And the whole universe dies when one individual dies. Get your minds wrapped around that one. This is a very different way of perceiving the world. The world isn't something that's out there and that we have to try to figure out, and we're kind of just here. But we're mutually creating the world in every moment. And it always starts right here. Let's take a moment just to consider the body, the sense. The body as a sense organ. Think about the body as a sense organ. And all the sensations in your body that arise when you are touching, just think about right now. What is your body making contact with? Whether it's the floor, the cushion, the chair. Notice that wherever your body is contacting the chair or the floor, notice that contact for a moment and the sensation that arises from that contact. Let's take a moment to do that. Notice the places where your body is making contact with the chair or the floor. And really experience, not just think about, but experience that sensation. Take it in. Can you feel the sensation of the air that you're breathing in, right at the tip of your nose? Can you feel that sensation as you breathe, as the air passes in and as the air passes out? Can you feel your abdomen increase and decrease, expand and contract with your breath? This is how we experience the world, through the senses. How about when your eyes make contact with something in this room? It could be the walls, the ceiling, the floor. Our eyes perceive something, and you know what? Each of us is seeing something a little bit different right now. We're not all seeing the same thing. I'll take that in. If you think about it, it's amazing that we can actually sense things and become aware of it. This ability to reflect on our experience and to think about it. And here we sit. Our body is made up of the atoms that were around at the time of the Big Bang. We're stardust. This is what science is teaching us now, that our bodies, the molecules, the hydrogen atom is in our body, are flicks from stars that have exploded. And I think part of meditation is to be able to connect with that, that sense of, wow, I'm part of something much bigger. A sense of awe, a sense of mystery about being here, being alive. Right? Here's another thing to take in. Scientists have shown or believe that what we know about the universe is less than 0.5%. If that's what scientists know, what do we know? What do we know about ourselves? What do we know about our partners, those we're in a relationship with? If we think we know, maybe we should start to question that. That's a big part of meditation practice, is to let go of knowledge. It's not that we shouldn't acquire knowledge, but to think that our knowledge is sufficient is a mistake. It's a problem. So I'd like to share a little bit about myself and how I came to this practice. So I've been in Iowa now for about 5 years. I moved out here at that time with my to-be wife. We're now married. And prior to that, I had been living in Pennsylvania and my wife in Haiti. I was working as a Buddhist chaplain in a hospital in southern Pennsylvania. And my wife was doing violence prevention work for an organization in Haiti, which she still works for. And actually, we just returned from a trip to Haiti, about 3 weeks, 3-week trip. And prior to my year-long chaplaincy training, I lived and practiced Soto Zen Buddhism. That's a particular kind of Buddhism that I kind of represent. I'm a representative of. And I did that for 15 years. I lived with my teacher in the temple. I followed a strict schedule of waking up early, meditating, spent a lot of time cooking, cleaning the temple, organizing retreats, working on being the treasurer. I lived a life of a celibate monk. I did that earnestly for 15 years. I came to this practice fairly early in my life. I'm 45 years old, and I started practicing, or I started to think about practicing when I was 20. So I've been doing this, I guess, about 25 years, which I think is probably a short time. But what hooked me, which began to hook me, that's like the spark that brought me to practice, was that I was in college and I was studying a philosophy of religion class with an African American professor whom I deeply respect and admire. Her name is Professor White. And none of my other teachers in college were people of color. She was the only one. So in college, I only had one professor who was black. I had one teacher in junior high school who was a black woman, taught science. And in high school, I had two teachers that were black. One that taught me how to type, and another one that taught me history. And other than that, I didn't have any people of color teaching me. So it's significant, I think, that this one Professor White kind of, in a certain sense, really pushed me along this particular path of, now I don't want to just say meditation, because that's not it totally, but to get my life on track. I owe her I feel I am indebted to her, as well as many of my other teachers, but particularly her. She's had a central role. And so I want to reflect a little bit here on this. Looking back, I wonder how difficult it was for those teachers that were people of color to be in an all-white, a predominantly white space, to work in a predominantly white space. And I get a taste of this every time I go to Haiti with my wife and my 2-year-old son. I've been there about 8 times, and every time I go there, I'm struck by how white I feel. I'm just really aware of my whiteness because I'm in a sea of black people. And so in a sense, the tables have been turned the other direction. And the very first time I went to Haiti, I remember feeling fear. I remember feeling a sense of kind of like a palpable sense of fear. Here I was in a sea of black people, and me, the only white person. I wondered if they were going to do something bad or violent. Every time we go to Haiti, people say to us, be safe. It's not just about the traveling, but it's the place itself. We have this idea in the back of our mind that Haitians are violent. Or maybe that anywhere you go, if you were to go to a black country, that you're going to rub up against some kind of violence. I think it's, my parents always, you know what my father would say. He'd say, you know what I think about that, don't you? Right? You know. You know what he thinks about it. I don't even have to say it. But for me, I felt like I wanted to disappear. This last time I went there a couple of weeks ago, I was walking. We walk every day from the home that we were staying. We were staying with a Haitian family, and we invited a Haitian family to stay with us for a couple of weeks. And we would walk every day. My son and I, my wife would be at work, and my son and I would walk to the ocean, because almost everywhere you are in Haiti, you're fairly close to the ocean. We were in the southern part in Jacmel, and we'd take about 30 minutes to walk there. And I would be fumbling with my Creole. My wife speaks fluent Creole. I don't at all. And I fumble with my Creole trying to, and my social cues were all off. I was rude in some cases, and I remember distinctly thinking I was being kind by saying good morning, bonjour, to an older black woman, and she said back to me with disgust, bonjour, blanc. You know what that means? White. Good morning, white. And I felt, oh man, I must have. And then the young boy who was guiding us, who was the son of the people, the family that we were staying with, he said to me, Eric, you have to greet everybody, not just the one person. And there was a group of people that I was meeting. Of course, there's fear being around black people. And I just singled out the oldest woman, and I thought I was doing something right by saying good morning to her, but I completely ignored everybody else. And she picked up on it, I think. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. I was white, you know, and it struck in my heart. I thought, oh, God. I just can't wiggle out of that. It's there with me. It's kind of like a thorn in my side. You know? But I just bring this up because, what do you notice about yourself when you are around people of color? And we can meditate on this right now if you like, just to go in a little bit. When you're around people of color, how many of you have been around a sea of black people? Yeah. And just, take a moment, if you haven't, maybe just kind of consider, what is that experience like for you? How many people of color do you know that are in your life? And if you were to meet somebody or to be in a group where you're the only white person, how would that feel inside? What do you notice in your emotions? What do you notice in your body? Do you feel safe? Do you feel any fear? Now, what's there, if you can just kind of imagine it? Well, if you were to go into your body, what do you notice? And for example, and for me, when I feel fear, it's oftentimes around my heart, and there's a feeling of constriction, and it's palpable. There's like a tightening there. There may be also a tightening in my abdomen. So this is what's going on, like on a physical level, before we get to the word fear, before we see or perceive fear. And the body's already responding. The body's already reacting. It's saying, I got to get out of here quick. And so as a meditator, we can just watch that, watch that response. Now imagine a black man with dreadlocks, long dreadlocks, being in this space right now, maybe 5, maybe 10, sitting next to you. What would you feel? When I was going into 2nd grade, I remember there was we had 3 teachers to choose from. For some reason, we could choose who our teacher would be, and there was 3 of them. One was an African American woman. And I remember distinctly at that time entering into the school and my mother leading me over to the first teacher, who was the African American woman, very big woman. And as we started walking over to her, I started to cry. And my mother looked at me and said, okay, we're not going to that one. We turned around and went to somebody else, to the next one. What was going on there? At a very young age, I was only 8, 2nd grade. At 8 years old, I had picked up on fear. And my response, without thinking about it, was crying. That's how a child responds to fear. It's one way, if they can respond. But what made me afraid? What made me afraid of that teacher? Was it the fact that she was black? Was it the way that she looked at me? Was it the way that her voice sounded? You know, when I was in first grade, she was in the room right next door, and I could hear her. I could hear the way she talked. And when she got angry, didn't want to be in there. It's probably a combination of all those things. And how about my mother's response? There's no discussion about race or racism in my family, other than perhaps to talk about, be careful of black people. And yet my parents have 0 black friends. They don't know one. How can we talk about what a black person is like if we don't even know one? So I'm told that children learn to see color at a very young age. You know, even before age 1, we already register whether somebody is black or white. And there's even a sense, if you're white, there is already a sense of superiority. Why is that? Why is that? And so my generation, I'm not sure about yours, but my generation was brought up thinking that we should be colorblind, that we should treat everybody equally. And we think that we treat everybody the same. But the evidence points to the fact that that's not only impossible, but not helpful. We need to actually be able to recognize that we see differences and we see people differently. So color blindness is a kind of a blockage to our issues, I think, around race. At times when you've had to relate to a person of color, think about for a moment how you've felt. I mean, being honest with yourself, have you felt like a sense of superiority? When you think of a person of color, maybe somebody that you know, do you feel a sense of superiority to them? How would you take that same person, and maybe if they're a white man in a business suit, would you feel that same superiority? Or that would you feel that? I'm going to say, would you feel the same in relation to them? Let's take a moment to see how does your body feel when you register? Like, just again, imagining that black man. What do you feel in your body? And what do you register there? And if you were to replace that black man with a white man in a business suit, what would you feel there? You feel anything shifting in your body there? If I'm honest with you, I can definitely feel some shifts going on there. And those shifts then lead to certain kinds of feelings, certain kinds of attitudes that are present. And black people pick up on this pretty quickly in relation to white people. Regardless of how we've been taught to see and treat everyone as equal, let's see. Well, I just want you to consider a couple of things that are happening right now in our culture. The incarceration of people of color is out of balance. So we have way more people in proportion to our population, way more people of color incarcerated right now. And so our population as a whole, our society as a whole, does not favor people of color. Consider the Jim Crow laws. Just, 60, 70 years ago were in full swing. But also, we can't ignore our legacy of slavery. That's been a majority of American history. 350 years of slavery had taken place in this country. And so what does that do not only to the way that the United States is formed, but to our own psyches as individuals, even if we didn't own slaves, even if our parents were in part of that. So our nation, in a sense, has been founded on subjugation of people of color. And we have a very unique relationship with Haiti, in fact. So Haiti, that's where many slaves came from. They were brought to Haiti. It was a French colony at the time. And they were brought from West Africa to Haiti. And they were brought there, in many cases, to be broken before coming to the United States. And so we have this very intimate relationship with Haiti that we may not be aware of. And interestingly, the reason, many people don't know this, but the only successful slave revolt took place in Haiti, where they ousted the French rulers. They kicked them out of the country. And because they did that, that's part of the reason why Napoleon wanted to get rid of the whole Louisiana territory, and it was sold for so cheap. And it's the reason why we're not all speaking French today. One little flick of history, if Napoleon had been successful in Haiti, maybe we would all be speaking French here in Iowa, part of the Louisiana Purchase. So when someone tells me that they have no prejudices, I question whether they really look deeply at themselves. I often get this when one of my jobs is I teach at Des Moines Area Community College. I do a world religions class, and oftentimes I get students say, I'm not prejudiced against anybody. And that's when I know they haven't really done a lot of internal work. They haven't really seen themselves. Even if you are kind as an individual, even if you're a kind person, we as white people in general have benefited from racist policies. We've gotten an advantage as a white person. We have an advantage in the society over people of color. And I can give you examples of what I mean here, but for the moment, as I see this, and whether you agree with it or disagree with it, what do you notice happening in your own body? As I'm talking about race, what do you notice happening, going on in your own body? You may feel like openly disagreeing. You may feel like getting out of the room. You may feel like just being really quiet and silent. We don't talk about race enough, I think, in our culture, and so we're very clumsy and klutzy when it comes to it, and kind of thinking about white privilege. We don't talk about it enough. But all of these reactions, fight, run away, just kind of disappear, these are all normal reactions of many people. Never have I been more moved to act and do something about the state of the world than when I consider the treatment of people of color in our country. There's an incredible amount of pain there that we often don't recognize, and yet we have some responsibility to act. And I believe that the treatment we have towards people of color is at the heart of our nation's problems. And we really need to do whatever we can to reconcile that. So I think particularly, because I'm a teacher of meditation, I want to look and see how we use meditation to understand this problem a little bit more deeply. Slavery, genocide, the treatment of immigrants, right? These are all reasons I decided to take what's called the Bodhisattva vow in Buddhism. This Bodhisattva vow, is to free all beings. And I cannot be free. I can't be free unless they are free too. We can't be free unless other people are free. That's the Bodhisattva vow. And we don't stop trying to liberate others until we ourselves are free. So my practice, a meditation practice, is to cultivate space to be uncomfortable, to sit with discomfort. That's meditation. That's how I understand meditation. That's how my teacher taught me. She would say, Daishin, if you want to know where your treasure lies, where your treasure is, then you have to roll up your sleeves, open the garbage can, and reach down there. It's in your garbage where your treasure is. And so our practice, my practice, the way I understand meditation, the way I've been taught, is that where your treasure is where your garbage is. And that's the symbol of Buddhism, this lotus flower that you see every Buddhist, and this Buddha here is sitting on a lotus flower. And the lotus is a symbol for our practice. And we talk about sitting in a lotus posture, the legs in a certain position. It's not very comfortable if you ever try it. You try a lotus posture, it might be comfortable for about 10 seconds. The sitting in meditation might be comfortable for about 1 minute, maybe. So the lotus is symbolic of our practice, because the flower, if you look just at the flower, it's very beautiful. But if you get down low and go underneath the water that it's in, that it's planted in, it's in mud, and the roots go down into the mud, and that mud and that lotus are not separate. So the mud, the junk, the muck of our life is what gives the flower of our life as well. And without that mud, you can't have the blooming of the flower. It's something really we have to consider in meditation practice. If we're feeling some degree of discomfort while we sit in silence, then that's something we want to stay open to. Whatever it might be in our body, in our psyche, in our mind, feelings, whatever's coming up for us. And this is how we grow. On the other hand, if we're really super comfortable in our meditation practice, there may be something missing there. Sawaki Kodo Roshi, a Japanese Zen master that lived through World War II and actually fought for the Japanese in World War II, said, if Hitler is not in your practice, if Hitler is not in your meditation, then you're not doing it right. Who's our equivalent of Hitler today? I think I can think of a couple, maybe you can too. But the people that are thorns in our side need to be there. The people that create discomfort for us. And this is how we grow, and this is how we grow our lotus. So take a moment, you think, there's a side of us that's so natural that wants that comfort, wants to feel comfort, and shies away, moves away from the discomfort. So where there's discomfort, whether it's, and I'm just saying words, and you may be responding to them in some way or not. But where there's discomfort, that's kind of where we want to lean into. That's our practice, to lean into the discomfort, wherever that might be, and to sit with it, to be with it, and to develop a kind of not acceptance, but openness towards it. How else are we going to make relationships with people that are beneficial? So, when I took that philosophy of religion class with Professor White, a black woman, something really changed in me. She taught me things that tore open the way that I thought about the world. And it sparked in me the desire to seek the truth and to be real in my life. And Zen Buddhism enabled me to ask the questions I thought I could never ask the Catholic priests in my life. I was raised in a Catholic church. So with Buddhism, I could ask the questions and have the permission to not have them answered or to have to answer them right away. That's the beauty of this practice, is that we could have questions and to sit with those questions and to delve into a sense of, who am I? What's my life about? You know, there's a story in the book of Genesis, a story of creation where Adam and Eve are told not to eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Here they are in the Garden of Eden. And I would like to say that we're in the Garden of Eden right now too. But the more that we have this desire and eat from the tree of knowledge, this information age, there's information at the tip of our fingers. We can always get whatever we want to know. It's right there. Just type it in. It's right there. And that's what expels us from the Garden of Eden. We get expelled every time. Zen is about inviting us back into this garden, this place of mystery, this life of mystery. That's what this is. And can we return? Can we return? Can we let go of wanting to know and return to this mind that doesn't know anything? One of my Zen teachers said, Daishin, you know nothing. That was probably the best compliment he could have given me. All right. Maybe we can. Do you all do walking meditation?
Not very often.
Not very often. Okay. Or maybe we can just. There's a good. Got about 15. Maybe just sit in silence for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I'll bring the bell. Okay. Let's do that.